Hi, I'm Leslie Lowe. Welcome to Leslie's Lowedown on Life. Happy holidays, everybody. Welcome inside my kitchen. We're gonna take you through a couple of things today that I love most about the holidays. Gift giving is always a big one. And you know what, when you can make gifts and give them to people, I always think that's a little bit extra special. So today, I'm gonna show you how to make it's incredibly easy, raspberry freezer jam. So there are a couple of ingredients. And number one, you wanna get the fresh berries. These are fresh raspberries. Those are from up at Green Bluff, so local growers here. And then you put them in a big enough pan. I'm using this big pot because it gives me a lot of room to work with. And you mash them up just a bit. So you want to just take them through. You don't want any really big chunks, but you also don't want it totally emulsified either. This is the fun part right here. You want to add in the sugar. So what I've got is about 6.5 cups of fresh raspberries. I'm going to add to it. This is 5.5 cups of sugar. That's the good part right there. That's why it tastes so good. So in it goes, and then mash it around just a bit more. You wanna make sure that the sugar is totally dissolved. So that's gonna take a few minutes for all of that to just kind of blend in. You want no big grainy parts in there. So you just stir. And I'd love to hear from you too. What do you like to do for the holidays? Are there different gifts that you like to give out? Because I'll take your ideas as well. The other thing that I think is always really fun is if you take bath salts and you put them in jars just like this that we're gonna use for the raspberry jam. And those are always nice gifts for people as well. The other thing I'd like to do is make candles someday. But for today, it's all about the raspberry jam. So we're just mixing in the sugar, and I'll show you what that looks like. So then you're starting to get that mash right there. Still too much sugar, still too grainy. This is just the first couple of steps right here. The other thing you need to do is have a binding ingredient. So that's where you get the pectin that comes into play. So the water's boiling, 3/4 of a cup of water here, and you've got an entire package of pectin, whichever one you decide to use. You can get all kinds of different brands, whether it be from your local grocery store or even a Target or a Walmart. So you bring the water up to a boil, and then you want to pour the pectin in, and then you just need to make sure you give it a good stir. And that needs to come to a full boil so that it all mixes in and becomes like a clear liquid at that point. So there's your binding agent right there. While that's continuing to sit on a low boil, I'm gonna come back over. We gotta finish mixing in that sugar. That takes the longest right there. I gave this out a couple of months ago to a few people at this station, and they seem to like it. I like it too. You can put it on anything, whether it be toast or English muffins. One of my bosses saying that they mix it in with Greek yogurt, put a little granola with it, so it kind of does go with everything. I need an assistant who wants to do the stirring for me. Otherwise, it's just a good arm workout here. All right, once that is fully mixed in, that is when you add in the pectin. And by that point, that's when you're hoping that you've kind of got a clear liquid here. So that's what's important. All right, taking that off the stove. So it's kind of a gooey paste at this point. I'll show you what that looks like. That's the binding ingredient right there. Super important because as that goes into the jam, It just holds everything together. So when you put it in the fridge or the freezer, and honestly, I say keep these in the freezer because it tastes better that way. But once you add that in, that's gonna bind everything together. Right there. I told you this was easy. And you wanna make sure you use that full package, especially if you're using the full 6.5 cups of raspberries and all of that sugar. Then you've gotta mix that in really well as well. And then of course the important part is what are you gonna put it in? And I always say, you gotta put it in pretty jars. You gotta make it look good. So we'll get this out of the way. And let's see here. So you've got all the jars out here. The really nice thing about this is that you don't have to do the normal jarring process with this. So you don't have to boil the jars and then put the lids on and boil so that they all steam close, which is really nice. So this is just an easy process. It's a matter of how do you want that to look, the end result there. So I want this to sit for just a little bit longer. So we'll give you just a minute, and then when I see you back here, I'll show you how we put it all into the jars and make it look pretty. All right, I think we're just about ready. And I was talking about how I'm using fresh fruit from one of our local growers up at Green Bluff, but you can use fruit from your local grocery store, frozen fruit there. I just like the brightness of the fresh fruit. And you can use anything, whether it be raspberries, which we're doing today, or blueberries, blackberries, huckleberries, strawberries, and it's all going to be good. Also, less sugar. Yes, you could do that. You can do less sugar, and I'm sure there are sugar alternatives. I don't know that, so I'm not going to try to explain that to you. And you know what? It's the holidays, so you may as well just do it. Go big or go home. So again, we're about done here. I'm gonna go ahead and fill up our jars. Here's what's really cool about this particular recipe is that it needs to sit out for 24 hours. And by sit out, I mean just sit out on the counter and set up for a good 24 hours. And then you put it in the freezer and you're good to go. Look how pretty that is. I mean, the color's there, the jars are great. It's just the right amount. We'll make sure we list that recipe for you right there. And again, share with me what you do for the holidays. I would love to hear that. All right, there it is. Pretty, a little bit messy, so let's clean that off for you. You put the lid on those. Just like that. You've got a nice little Christmas gift. Enjoy, everybody.